everybody. Now what I'm going to be talking about in this video is definitely a little bit more important than the last two videos, but basically what I want you guys to comprehend with the psychology section is I'm going to be breaking down multiple different topics and kind of just simplifying them as much as possible so you guys can really comprehend really what I'm trying to talk about. Now obviously you have more than just the psychology section. You can go back and watch any of the webinars, and I have a lot of psychology talk in there as well. But what I wanted to talk about today is accepting risk, because a lot of the times when we're trading, definitely in the beginning, you may, as a newer trader, just be entering lots without genuinely knowing the risk that's behind it and accepting the risk that you're putting behind the trade. When you can't genuinely accept how much you're going to be able to potentially lose on that trade, it's going to be a lot harder for you to keep your emotions at bay. And what happens when our emotions aren't at bay? We're not in the most logical state of mind that we possibly can be, because you have to remember, once you have live money at risk, you are no longer thinking in a logical state of mind. Again, it's kind of like it's kind of like being under the influence of either some form of drugs or some form of alcohol, and that's literally what it is. You're no longer thinking about the trade and the trade playing out, but you're just thinking about the money that you have. Basically, that's on risk. So what I'm talking about when you have to be able to accept the risk that you put behind a trade is, before you even enter your position, right? You already know where you're going to get out if you're right and where you're going to get out if you're wrong. You already have a risk-reward ratio determined. So before you enter the trade, let's say you have $10,000 in your trading account, right? And you want to risk $1,000, right? Although you may be accepting that, you're putting $1,000 at risk, you're genuinely not comfortable with those $1,000 that are at risk, versus let's just say you're entering $100 and you have $10,000 in your trading account. You're going to be more comfortable and more accepting, although you've already made the decision that's how much you want to risk, risking a lot less versus risking a lot more. Now, some people are able to risk a lot more and genuinely are comfortable with accepting that risk, but this is something that you have to do before you enter the trade. And again, we do this process of accepting the risk by identifying how much money we have in our trading account and identifying how much money we're willing to lose on this specific trade. Because you have to remember, although we have the edge and we have the probability that most likely we will win this specific trade, we still have the chance of losing. So just in case you do lose, you have to be perfectly fine with losing the amount of money that you're risking on that specific trade. Again, I'm going to continue to repeat that because it is important for you to accept the amount of money that you're putting behind that position, behind that trade, so you can actually keep your emotions at bay. And what happens when your emotions are at bay as best as they possibly can be, and as effectively as they possibly can be as well, is that you're going to be able to make better and more logical decisions throughout the entire time span of the trade itself. You're going to be able to allow your winners to run a lot longer and know when to get out of the position when the time is right. Because there may be times where you hold a position past your take profit, and your trade that you thought was going to be a 3-to-1 risk-reward ratio trade turns out to be a 9-to-1, because you were able to genuinely continue to trail your stop loss and hold that position. Because again, the amount of money isn't a crazy amount of money that has your emotions all in a roller coaster, versus when you enter a position with a big lot and a big risk, your emotions are going to be all over the place. And when you see the slightest bit of profit, you're going to want to move your stop loss to break even, because you don't want to, again, risk losing the money. Because we know, let's just say there's a level of support that we identified. We know our stops have to go under support. Some people, when they are not accepting of the risk they're taking, they won't put their stop loss in the right area, causing them to get out of the trade a lot prematurely than when they're supposed to. And then they see price will hit their stop loss, but then go up and continue to take profits right after, because they had the stop loss in the wrong place because they wanted to trade bigger lot sizes. Remember guys, when it comes down to trading bigger lot sizes and risking bigger money, it's all a game about leveling up, right? That takes time. So don't even worry about where you are now. Worry about where you could be in the next 5 years if you genuinely put the right practices into place, if you practice a real risk management system. And again, you have to genuinely accept the risk that you're taking behind a trade. Most people nowadays will see me risking $10,000 on a trade and I'll be completely fine with it. I won't even think about it, because the amount of money that I have in my trading account, plus my experience and plus my knowledge, is what makes me comfortable and accepting that I'm putting 10 grand risk behind a specific trade, behind a single position. And again, it comes down to the concept of risk to reward. If I'm going to risk 10 grand on a trade, it's because I'm looking to make $30,000, $40,000. Now I'm gonna be looking to make $10,000. Does that mean I'm always gonna make $30,000, $40,000 every time I risk 10K? No. Again, and then it comes back to the previous topic that we talked about, the randomness in the market. So you have to protect your capital as much as you possibly can. Hopefully you guys got a little bit more enlightened, but again, before anything, put yourself in a mental place before you place that position and talk to yourself. All right, I have $50,000 in my trading account. How much money am I able to lose? How much money am I okay with losing on this trade? You know what? I think $500 or 1% is sufficient on this specific trade. Then there'll be days where it's like, you know what? I'd be fine risking $1,500 on this trade. And really, it's literally just kind of stepping your toes into the water and really just kind of getting your feet wet with talking to yourself. Because one thing that's also important in trading is, literally speaking out loud and talking to yourself about your own emotions and about what you're okay with and what you're not okay with when it comes to a specific trade. Remember, in trading, when you start leaving like your comfort zone in terms of risk, you're going to start making way less logical decisions. So forget about whatever you see on social media. Oh, I just flipped $1,000 to $6,000 in the span of a week. Forget about that. Focus on yourself and focus on your comfortability in terms of risk and what you're risking, because again, you're going to be able to think a lot more logically than anybody else. And what you're going to be doing is cutting your learning curve, because you're making decisions mainly based off of logic and not as much based off of emotion. Anyways, I hope this video helped. I'll talk to everybody in the next topic.